All right, there you go.
All right. I would now like to call the August 17th, 2022 Longmont Sustainability Advisory Board meeting to order. Could we please start with a roll call?
Yes, Kate Collardson.
Here.
Jim Metcalf.
Here.
Mary Lynn is not here. Michelle Mendieta Roth.
Here.
Charles Musgrave.
I'm here.
Robert Davidson.
Present.
Ralph Grosswald.
Here.
Lisa Knobloch.
Here.
Becky Doyle.
Here.
Francie Jaffe.
Here.
Debbie Seidman.
Here.
Jose Luis is not here yet. Daryl Hahn,
Yes.
Heather McIntyre, and Councilmember Martin may or may not be able to join us today. She's not here yet. We do have a couple of community members. I'll go ahead and allow them to unmute themselves to let us know who they are. And from my understanding, both of them just want to observe today. So first up is Dave Bishton.
Hello.
Hi, David. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Yes, I am a long-time Longmont resident from the mid-1980s. And I'm interested in this group largely because I was twice on the city's environmental advisory board that started in the, I think, early 90s. And then I was again on it in 2007 to 11, I think. So yeah, it's been a goal of mine that Longmont really pushes forward in this area, and I've been really happy with what they've been doing and what you're doing. So I just want to see what the latest thing is.
Great.
Thanks
thank
for
you.
joining.
And next up, David Brenna. David, are you with us? Nice. Let's see. See, your microphone is unmuted, but I'm not sure if you're able to talk to us. We're not hearing you. But David is a member of the Senior Citizens Advisory Board and has just been coming kind of as a representative of that board to listen in and see what is going on with the sustainability group. So he is here with us until about 5. He said he has another commitment. So
Fantastic. All right. Well,
we do have a quorum.
fantastic. Great. With that, I'll read our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that Longmont sits on the traditional territory of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and other indigenous peoples. We honor the history and the living and spiritual connection that the First Peoples have with this land. It is our commitment to face the injustices that happened when the land was taken and to educate our communities, ourselves, and our children to ensure that these injustices do not happen again. So on to approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions, thoughts, motions regarding those minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. Okay. Are there any amendments to the agenda or changes, corrections?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Great. Okay, we'll move on to general business. A reminder to board members to please hold your comments and questions until the end of each presentation after staff has finished presenting. And Lisa, you are up.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to be going through with you today the update, or not the update. I don't know why that word is stuck in my head right now. So many things happening these days. The mid-year report that you all received in your packet. So hope you all had a chance to have a look at it. I'm not going to read through every page. I'm just going to go through and provide some highlights for you. And then if you all want to provide any comments or feedback, we'll include that in our council communication when we take the mid-year report to City Council, which will be sometime probably in the next month or two with our budget presentations, but that hasn't been set yet. Thanks, Heather. You can go ahead and skip to the next page. So I think folks are pretty familiar at this point in time, but we moved last year from a quarterly reporting format to a biannual reporting format, which was one of the suggestions that came out of the Climate Action Task Force, and also to bring that information to this board to review the progress that we're making on both our climate action recommendations and then overall sustainability work. So this is our 2022 mid-year report. The annual report is the one that contains more of the data and targets on how well we're progressing toward meeting those targets. But because most of that data we only gather annually at the most frequent, some of that is even not quite that frequent or tends to be a couple years old by the time we're able to access it. The mid-year report is just more of a narrative piece that just highlights some different things that are happening just to keep people apprised of where things are at, and then highlight anything that we think is really interesting or noteworthy for council and the community. And then of course, we do always have the large backup spreadsheet, or not backup spreadsheet, but the accompanying spreadsheet that has every strategy from the sustainability plan and climate action recommendations report with notes and data and things like that for folks to also have a look at. So this is our mid-year report. Again, as a reminder, we have these little icons that denote climate action. But I'm just going to run through and highlight a couple of things. So in the adaptation and resilience section, we've talked to you all about this before. In the next couple of months, we'll bring a more in-depth update to you on the climate risk and vulnerability map and actually walk through the tool with you. But that is pretty close to done in terms of the data collection piece. There's a couple of additional items that need to be incorporated into that, mostly the adaptive capacity piece. But we have some additional climate exposures, climate projections from a similar project happening at Boulder County. And then the piece that we're really focusing on next before the site actually goes live is the community stories piece. So we really want to make an effort to humanize the data. So it's not just, hey, here's a bunch of data, interpret for yourself sort of what that means, but it gives an opportunity for people in different parts of our community to share their stories in their own voice about what their experience has been with climate impacts and resilience. So that's underway and that'll be wrapped up by the end of the year. In the education and outreach section, the museum, in partnership with the sustainability program, last year, if you all recall, we launched the Big Picture Climate Lecture Series. That was one of the recommendations from the Climate Action Recommendations Report. Last year, it was a week-long series of events leading up to Earth Day, which was great. It was very well attended. It was also a lot to coordinate, not on our part. Thankfully, the museum has really stepped up to lead that effort. But we this year decided to move that to be a quarterly format that we're calling Climate Action Sundays. The first will be called The Air We Breathe, and it's focused on air quality, and that is going to be in September, I believe. And Francie, if you'll drop the dates for me in the chat, because I did not include that in here, that'd be great. And then the Watch Your Waste event, which I think is the one in December. And that's being done in partnership with Sustainable Resilient Longmont. So we'll make sure you all get the dates for those, but it's a family-friendly event, Sunday afternoon. So please definitely, if you can, thank you. September 18th and October 16th. I thought they were further apart, but thank you, Francie, for helping to keep everything organized. But they'll be really fun. We hope they're really well attended. We'll start to put out the promotion of that in the coming weeks. It's also just a really exciting partnership with the museum, and we're really happy that they've really taken it on. And then in the equity and climate action, we hired finally our new equity and engagement specialist. Her name is Laura Soto. She wasn't able to join us today, but hopefully you'll have a chance to introduce her to this group at some point in time. But a big part of her role is coordinating the equitable climate action team. And so she's been working a lot on that, focusing on recruitment, helping to coordinate their review of different projects with city staff, and then also working citywide on the implementation of equity-based community engagement. So working a lot with our colleagues in community and neighborhood resources who really head up that work. And the next slide, please. So there's a lot going on this slide. So sorry, it's probably hard to see on the small screen, but hopefully, as I mentioned, you have it in your packets to review. But just a couple of things I want to highlight in the building and infrastructure section. So this again was a recommendation from the Climate Action Recommendations Report, was to not only continue with the city's policy to adopt every new code cycle for the international building codes, but also to add EV and solar readiness requirements to that. So early this year, we adopted requirements for solar readiness and EV readiness on the residential side. And so that's part of our code now moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. So on the economic Fatalities side, we also, we've had our sustainable business program relatively on hold since our former economic sustainability specialist, Bernice Garcia-Tiaz, left us back in January. We finally were able to hire a new position, which is now titled a Business Sustainability Coordinator. He just started August 1st, so we're really excited. His name is Jose Luis Ramos, and hopefully, did he jump on, Heather, or no?
No, unfortunately, we don't have him with us.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll be able to introduce him to you all at some point as well. But we're really excited to have him. He comes with 20 plus years of experience.
He's actually just coming in, Lisa.
There we go. As both a business owner working in entrepreneurship. He comes from the city of Fort Collins, doing a similar role there. So we're really excited to have him on board and getting him plugged into things. And I might go ahead and try to put him on the spot as possible. And that way he also doesn't have to hang out till the very end of the meeting, because I was going to introduce folks. But Jose Luis, are you on? Can you hear us okay? Might need to give him a minute.
Yes, I can hear you, but I don't think I have, you're sharing the screen. Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. Do you want to just take a quick second to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Jose Luis. I'm the Business Sustainability Coordinator for the city of Longmont. Just started a couple weeks ago. I'm excited to be here. I used to work for the city of Fort Collins before for a couple of years in business development. I used to have a business. I had a restaurant for more than 10 years in Fort Collins. So I used to be a business owner. So I kind of made the connection there, you know, and I'm a software engineer. So it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Jose Luis. And he'll be probably dropping in from time to time to provide some updates, especially as things grow and evolve in the Sustainable Business Program. But in the meantime, if you all have connections to the business and commercial community that you think are interested in sustainability, please send them our way. Thanks, Heather. If you could pull that back up for me, please. Thank you. It looks like it's in.
Are you seeing the presentation notes?
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second. Darn screens. Let's see. There we go. Is that better?
Yep, there we go. Great. On the energy side, so I know Susan Bartlett from LPC has been keeping you all up to date on the beneficial building electrification plan. This changed slightly from when we completed this report, but staff is that plan is finalized, and we are planning to take that plan to City Council. That date has been moved, I think, to October. So we'll keep you all posted on how that conversation with Council goes and next steps from that planning process. Next slide. Great. On the transportation side, there's a new effort with the Longmont Economic Development Partnership, working with local and private transit operators to help better connect key activity centers in Longmont with financial support from businesses and employers. So just partnership there with folks stepping up to try to increase transit connectivity. And then also Longmont Power and Communications. Hopefully some of you heard about this. I think we mentioned it at one of our previous meetings, but they launched an e-bike demonstration program in the last couple of months. It was really successful. They had 41 regular rebates and 4 income qualified rebates that were provided to residents to purchase new e-bikes. They're evaluating the success of that and then determining whether or not to continue with that in the future. In the waste section, we had both Columbine Elementary and Silver Creek High School launch the Green Star Schools program, which is a program that EcoCycle runs, but the city funds, this year we started funding 2 additional schools per year, and the St. Marie Valley School District funds 1 school per year in the whole district area. So we're up to about 11 schools within Longmont, which is not quite half of all of the schools. So we are hoping to get to all of the schools to be participating in the Green Star Schools program, hopefully somewhere around 2025. It's a great program. We have a lot of success and a lot of great feedback from the schools and students for that program. And then lastly, in the water section, one of the efforts that's been underway with our planning folks is creating a list of trees and shrubs that developers and planners can use to help encourage water-wise landscaping choices. So that's been something that folks have been wanting to do for quite a while, just haven't really had the staffing capacity to do that. So we do encourage water-wise landscaping through our code, but this helps provide some additional resources for folks on how do you actually do that and what are some good choices for our regional climate. All right, before I move into the sustainability tax, I just wanted to pause and give folks an opportunity to ask any questions or share any feedback on the mid-year report.
Could I just ask that Jose Luis provide to Heather his contact information? I'd like to follow up and get to meet him. I have an extensive business background and would love to see if there's a way I can support him in his efforts.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ralph. Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, thanks for that, Lisa. I was just curious, I was looking through the spreadsheet of the status of all the different initiatives. And do you have a sense, just like a gut sense of how on target you feel things are? Like it's a little bit hard for me to evaluate, just like how obviously things have happened and it's been a weird couple of years. I was just curious if you just had a gut sense for that.
Yeah, I mean, we actually did that, and I don't have it at my fingertips, but maybe Francie can pull this up while I'm chatting with you. For the annual report, the 2021 annual report, we did an evaluation of kind of where we're at percentage-wise or on how we're meeting our targets and implementation of the strategies in the sustainability plan and climate action plan. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. That was so fast. So you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner there, so 89% of our immediate near-term or ongoing strategies are on track for implementation, and 73% are on track for meeting our targets that we've set. So in general, we are doing pretty well. I think the thing that I would say with that is, some of those are are not super aggressive targets. And so I think there's an opportunity as we do the sustainability plan update to revisit what those targets are. Generally speaking, though, I think we're doing really well. And I think also our scorecard showing the CDP or the Carbon Disclosure Project rating, which is a pretty in-depth rating tool. It's a global system that rates folks, cities, municipalities, as well as the private sector doing climate action. And we got an overall score of a B. And it looks at, I mean, every topic you can possibly imagine, both on the adaptation and mitigation side of things. So I think all things considered, we're doing pretty well. It is a lot, and it's a lot for us to stay on top of. But yeah, that's my sense.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And it's
Yeah.
great to see.
Yeah, it's a big effort, not just of the sustainability team, but for folks across the organization. Yeah.
I want to hop in at this opportunity and just say what amazing work this is. I'm so proud to be a Longmont resident, specifically because of the work that y'all do, Lisa. This is really incredible stuff, and I tout all of this as often as I can, and I hope that David Bishton is proud to see where the Board of Environmental Affairs has come. I do have a question. It's not all praise. You mentioned solar ready homes, and I'm curious about, is the city still charging a fee to solar homeowners? And is that, if so, are there plans to eliminate that fee?
Yeah. And I might, I will take a stab, and then I see Daryl Hahn, who's our director of Longmont Power and Communications, can jump on and add anything if he wants. That fee is still in place. We have recently hired another new position in LPC, which is I forget her title. It's the Director of Distributed Energy Resources Portfolio, something. It's a lot.
Portfolio manager, right? Yeah.
It's a lot of words in there, but part of her job is very much looking at how do we support more local generation, and I think evaluating some of those things. One of the things that we do like to point out for folks is I know that can seem to be a barrier. On the other side of that, we do also pay market rate for any excess that's produced, and that is different than a lot of other places. So there is also, that's another part of the financial equation to that. But Daryl, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Lisa, I think you pretty much hit it on the head there. We are in the very early stages at looking at maybe doing some consulting, reach out to see if we can really sort of quantify the value of solar. When we have customers who want to help out and they want to put solar on their roofs, there are a lot of fixed costs that ultimately don't get recouped because we aren't collecting that revenue from those customers because they self-generate. So those costs are then picked up by other customers. And so, what we want to do is really get a really good understanding of what the impact is to the utility and really to the other customers who don't have rooftop solar. And so this value of solar study should help us kind of get a better handle on that.
Great, thank you. Thanks both. Michelle.
Thanks, Lisa. That was great update. It's very exciting to see. I was on the Climate Action Task Force, so it's great to see it in motion and actually taking off. I just had a random question, which I don't even know if you can do it off the top of your head, but looking through the updates, and so food system was one of them and just didn't have an update for this quarter. I was just kind of curious if there's like an overall plan for food system that is just, you just didn't have an update right now, or is it just like that's something that's on the back burner?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That's a great question. That's definitely been an area where there's some strategies and targets in the sustainability plan, as well as in Envision Longmont and the comprehensive plan, that's focused on both food production and food access. And then in a sustainability plan, there's some focus also on regenerative agriculture and use of agriculture for carbon sequestration. There's not a lot happening in that space right now that the city is directly either responsible for or participating in. We've had some conversations with the county in the past around partnering on some of the work that they're doing around carbon sequestration. They ended up using some of their own parcels in City of Boulder parcels. So we're watching some of that research as it happens so that we can take any lessons learned that we might be able to apply locally. We've been in the past couple of years supported the WIC Farmers Market program, and we didn't do that this year. They didn't request additional funding from us for this year. Aside from that, I think it's an area that the city is still, figuring out with external partners kind of what our role is and how we can help support external partners in facilitating those pieces of food production and food access. A lot of the food production pieces are pieces that happen outside the city limits and within the Boulder County land area. But it's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily on the back burner, but I wouldn't say it's as much of a focus as other areas. And there's still some of those pieces there's a lot of external folks working in that space. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right. Can we move? I think the next piece on the agenda, Kate, is the sustainability tax, right? Okay. So Heather, if you want to pull that back up, great. So I'll just give a quick overview of what the sustainability tax is, since I know there's some new board members that might not be familiar with it. Oh, I just discovered that you can put the gallery at the bottom, but now I can't figure out how to put it back where I want it. Sorry. Okay, now y'all are on another screen. So sorry if it looks like I'm looking into space. In 2018, voters across Boulder County approved the Boulder County Sustainability Tax. It wasn't a new tax, it was actually approving the continuation of the open space tax and essentially splitting that so that half would continue to go to open space and half would become the sustainability tax essentially. So that kicked in 2020. It specified a focus in 5 bucket areas, which is energy conservation, water conservation, waste reduction, transportation, and food systems, as well as up to 10% of the tax going to local municipalities based on population. So the county had, prior to that, the environmental sustainability matching grant program that had been in place for quite some time, and communities could request up to $15,000 to support local sustainability work. If, depending on how long folks have been around, that was actually how we paid in part for the update to the sustainability plan and some early sustainability work like our greenhouse gas inventory. And then when the sustainability tax went into effect, that bumped our annual allotment considerably. So currently the county allocates 6% of that up to 10% revenue to local municipalities through the same grant mechanism. So Longmont in the last couple of years has been allocated between $120,000 and $130,000 per year. We have to provide a 25% cash match to that. And then we go through the same application process. So every year, even though that money is technically allocated for Longmont, we have to tell the county what we want to do with it. And then we do reporting to make sure we are doing with the money what we said we would do with it. So every year, the first year it was kind of here's a whole bunch of things because we have a lot going on. What are the priorities of different groups that we wanted to take into account? We've honed that over time. And so now it's kind of more just bringing this to this group to say, here's what our anticipated priorities are for 2023 and answer any questions, or if folks want to say like, hey, we really think you should focus on another area, please feel free to share that with us. But you can move to the next slide, Heather. So the projects that we funded in 2022, just as a reminder, is the climate risk and vulnerability map. Oh, I forgot map on that map, that phase 2. So additional climate exposures and the community stories, as I mentioned. The Sustainable to Go Where program, which has been a little bit slow to get off the ground, but that's a partnership with Boulder County PACE, or Partners for a Clean Environment, to do a demonstration program with a number of local businesses to help them transition away from styrofoam and plastic in their to-go-ware use. And that's a program that Jose Luis will be heading up with our partners at PACE. Updating the sustainability plan, they're starting that process, and then partially funding our equity and engagement specialists. So again, that's a 2-year fixed term position. So we used some of the funding last year to fund that position, and then some funding this year for that position as well. So you can go to the next slide. And then our 2023 priorities that we've really narrowed down based on all of the work that we have going on and how we think we can best use this funding to support the continuation of those priorities are, as we wrap up the climate risk and vulnerability map, taking the information that we know from that. So what are the main risks that our community is facing? Who in our community is at most risk for those impacts? And then figuring out, what programs and policies we might want to put into place to help mitigate those risks and build community resilience. So I think continuing to put funding toward that area is going to be really important, especially after the incredibly hot summer we've all experienced. The extreme heat is definitely an area that is rising to the top in terms of risk. Building electrification recommendations. So as I mentioned, that plan is going to council in the next couple of months. If there's recommendations that come out of that we need some additional funding for, that sustainability can work in partnership with Longmont Power and Communications, there's some potential funding there. And then also zero waste opportunities. So as you all know, that's been another big area of focus for us this year. So as we look at things that might come out of the zero waste resolution or the universal recycling ordinance, opportunities to help support that rollout in our community as well. So that's what we're looking at for 2023. I will say we have decided not to continue trying to put funding towards supporting staffing through this funding, because there's so much change and transition and difficulty in getting people on time. We have 12 months to use this funding, and it's kind of just got us caught up in the last couple of years just because of all the things that are happening in the labor market. So we are, I think, at least for the time being, moving away from using that fund support because it's just too challenging right now. So are there any questions? Or yeah, I think I saw Ralph and then Jim.
You a couple of questions. First of all, because I'm not familiar with this, I've got 3 questions. How is this tax collected? Is it part of a sales tax, or how does that money come in? Is question 1. Question 2 is, do you happen to know what the total amount of funds received was in that and from the tax? And number 3 is the matching funds that the city has to put up with. Where do those funds come from?
Those are all great questions, Ralph. I should know the answer to number 1. And I was gonna say, I hope Becky can step in because actually I don't remember that off the top of my head. So go for it, Becky.
Hi, Ralph. I'm Becky Doyle.
Exactly.
Yes, that is a sales tax that's collected at the county level. And I believe this is the one that was, previously there was an amount that went toward open space. And then at the time of renewal, they split that. So it was half for open space and half for sustainability. And that was, I think you said 2018 or thereabouts that when that started. We get roughly from the county on the order of $120,000, $130,000 annually based on population. So various communities and all the communities in Boulder County get kind of that per capita amount.
Yep. And then to your second question, I don't know the exact number. I've actually started to ask for the county. So as we do reporting to them, asking for them to do some reporting back to us as well, because we do get this question from community members as well as other staff of how much was brought in and what else, if the county is using 6% for these local matching grants, what are they using the remaining 94% for? Because folks are interested in knowing that. So I don't have that exact number off the top of my head. Just an estimate that I've heard from the county is usually between $7 and $8 million per year. I could probably do the math, or Becky could probably do the math a lot quicker than I can around Longmont's portion of 6% of whatever total. So roughly that's about what that revenue is, just to give you a sense of that. Again, 6% of that gets distributed, and that's a total of 6%, not 6% to each community. And then your last question, so the 25% cash match. So the sustainability program, we have a sustainability fund and essentially a sustainability account. I work with Becky and other folks at the beginning of each year to project where the key priorities are for the coming year. And then we essentially have a split within that fund that a bunch of different enterprise funds contribute to that, to supporting the sustainability program and the work that we do. Becky, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh no, there's a very complex, allocation to, all of the funds in the city kind of coming together to support sustainability efforts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jim.
Ralph's second question was my question, so we're good.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you though.
Yep. Anything else on sustainability tax?
Charles has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Charles.
Hi, thanks, Lisa. Appreciate the updates. And as everyone has said, it's amazing how much is being done. I think there was something like 24 pages of tables of updating all the actions of the sustainability in the city. I had a question. So the Inflation Reduction Act just passed and was signed earlier, I think this week. There are pieces in that are related to climate and sustainability, and a lot of it's tax credits and things like that. Is the city planning on doing anything to maybe help? I mean, there's incentives in there already for consumers, but there's sometimes challenges with implementing some things because of needing to get through I don't know, getting approvals for construction, for permitting, for all kinds of stuff like that. So I was wondering if, and there's even things in there for, if I remember right, a tax credit for wiring upgrades and tax credit for load centers, something like $2,500 or something. So I wonder if there's any thinking about, is there a way that the city can maybe help, in a sense, kind of take advantage of those new opportunities to help the community essentially take these incentives and use them to accelerate our advancement for our own sustainability goals?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting that that's coming down. I have not heard any word as yet of how those funds will get administered or what the mechanisms will be. If those are things like tax credits and rebates, I don't think that's, I think that's just, I don't think that's something that the city would be able to take and manage. I think that's something that's still, similar to the way that things like EV credits have worked and that sort of stuff. I think what we would probably look to do is obviously look and see what monies may be available for local governments and how that might be administered, because it is very specific to, or a lot of it's very specific to climate action and aligns very well with our climate goals. And then otherwise looking for ways to supplement, where the federal government might be supporting folks to get tax credits or things like that. How can we then use the resources that we might have available to address those needs for folks that can't access that because of the barriers that might be in place for that? So I don't have any answers to that yet, other than, those are the types of things that we'll be looking for as we get more information on that.
Yeah, it's definitely, large pieces of it are definitely aimed at incentives through tax credits.
Yeah.
but there's also other pieces in there that incentivize companies and things like that. And I think there's, if I remember right, there's pieces there for, and we talked about this, I know last year with the board, with expanding the charging station networks and things like that. So there looks like, it just seems like it's something to go in and analyze. And because I was thinking with the sustainability tax, you know, it might be one of those things that, you know, we can kind of co-invest, because the federal government's investing in this, the consumer would be investing in this. How might the city kind of co-invest with the federal government and the consumers to kind of take advantage of this special opportunity? It's 10 years, so we have a little bit of time, but sooner is better, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think that, you know, again, as we get more information on how some of those things are going to be applied, especially for local businesses or local residents, the role of some of our new staff, so Jose Luis and our other new member, Zach Lance, who's our sustainability coordinator focused on residential programs, can help be out in the community, one, promoting those things, but potentially also doing, you know, some of the support that folks need to get the right information, access applications, like that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll have some on the ground support for folks too, because that stuff can be, especially when it's coming from the federal government, can be difficult for people to understand and navigate. And so I do think we'll have, at the very least, opportunity to help figure out how to translate that in the way and promote it, the way that we can promote accessibility to folks in our community.
Definitely, that'd be great. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments? Nope. All right, great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa.
That's it for me.
Great. Well, the next item on the agenda is our public invited to be heard, but it is my understanding that we do not have anyone who would like to speak today. So we'll move on to other business. Is there any other business? Okay. Items from staff. I know that Francie has something about volunteering, but Lisa, you have an item to introduce new staff, but I feel like you've already done that.
Yeah, the only person I didn't intermix in there, I just a little bit at the end, is Zach Lance. So I'll just do a quick plug for him. So he's our new sustainability coordinator that is focused on kind of the residential neighborhood side. So working really closely with our partners in community and neighborhood resources. He'll be heading up the SOUL program, which we've talked to you all about before. That's the program that we run in partnership with those folks. So you probably will see him also from time to time. He comes to us from several years working at Resource Central, which I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with. So they run the Garden in the Box program. He developed and launched their turf removal program. So he's got a ton of experience, and I'm sure that you all will be excited to meet him and pick his brain as he comes to our meetings. He had another conflict this afternoon as well, but so welcome to all three of them. We are so incredibly excited to have really our full team on board. I will say we are losing Astrid Villalobos Chavez, who's been our program assistant for the last handful of years. I think you all have had a chance to meet her a few times. So she's been a huge support, particularly with the sustainable business program as we've been getting Jose Luis on board. So we'll probably be looking to rehire that position. It's a part-time position in the next coming months, but we're very excited to have a pretty full team right now.
Great, that's exciting news. Francie.
Great, thank you. We'll probably have an email with more details on upcoming September and early October events. We haven't quite put together our outreach plan, but we have 4 events between those 2 months. Where we will be interested in volunteer support. I believe at the last meeting, I mentioned unity in the community. We are still looking for one more volunteer from 6 to 9:30 to support at our table. We may need a specific help, there's a big boat activity, so we might need help like having kids take apart their boats, and then everything on the boats either supposed to be upcycled, composted, or recycled. So if anyone is available at that time, it's on August 26th. So just wanted to put that. I know we have advisory board members who are interested in volunteering, so just wanted to highlight that a little. It's next Friday, so a little bit more urgent volunteer requests. And also thank you, Robert. I saw your emails. We also have the next day a hazard waste drop-off event in the morning. So I'm not coordinating that. I haven't, but I heard that they are usually happy to take as many volunteers as possible. So Saturday morning's the better fit. You can also send me an email and I can connect you to Charles Camanides, who is our waste services manager.
Thanks, Francine. Can you remind us where the Unity in the Community event is?
It's right downtown, so our table's right in front of the library.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Are there any items from the board? Okay. We do not have council representation, so I'm going to say we don't have any items for council either. That brings us to informational items and board correspondence, which are attached to your board packet. Just a reminder to please be sure and read those. And with that, we have reached the end of our agenda, which seems like record time, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
So could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Fantastic. Second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for another great meeting. I appreciate y'all being here.
Thank
Thanks
you,
all.
guys.
Thanks.
See you
Have a
next
good one.
month.
Thank you.
Next
Take
one.
care.
Bye.
Bye.